which there's so many different factors of what can cause the body to have pressure dysregulation. We look at, we keep going back to adrenal stress. We look at the diaphragm regulating intra-abdominal pressure. If you don't breathe properly, your body's organs around their fascial bags and connections register dysregulated pressure in there. So they become stressed, they become squeezed, they become tight. When things are tight and squeezed, they don't perform optimally. So that, you change the organ function. And that's all started, a lot of it is started from lack of breathing. Diaphragm doesn't move, the rib cage doesn't expand, causes a hell of a lot of stress and causes a lot of compensations around the body.
I'm Andy Petronic, the co-founder of the Whole Life Challenge, the inspirational game that helps thousands of people around the globe take action each day to improve their health, fitness, and well-being. Join me each week on the Andy Petronic podcast for interviews with guests that will help give you ideas, get inspired, and take action toward being the best and healthiest version of yourself you can be. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Andy, and I'm back. Episode number 136. Today is with Alex, Rizk, and Brian Donahue of The Human Garage. And we will be getting to them in a second. The Whole Life Challenge started this week. Actually, let's see. When this podcast goes up, it will have been going for a week. And, it really snuck up on me. The 6-on, 6-off format, which is brand new for this year, is a new thing. Now, it ended early. It ended 2 weeks early. But we started, the break between challenges was shorter than it's ever been. It was only 6 weeks. We've done 8 or 9 weeks in the past, and it really did sneak up on me. One of the really cool things about starting this week, now, I've got a lot of resistance to starting. Believe it or not, you would think maybe that me, Andy Petronic, founder of the Whole Life Challenge, would not have any resistance to doing it. I just love this stuff. Well, I do love it. I love the results, and I love the impact. I don't necessarily love, jumping in and doing it when it's time. And what I've learned over the years is when I feel that resistance, if I just start, it usually goes okay. And that's what I found this time. I just started. I just started scoring my life. And the crazy thing, I didn't really make any modifications. I think the first night I had ice cream of the challenge. But very quickly I started to make little shifts in the choices I was making around mobility, the choices I was making around foods and snacks. And it feels really good, but it feels really ordinary. And ordinary is a good thing because life is ordinary, right? I want the shift that occurs between Whole Life Challenge time and non-Whole Life Challenge time to be as small as possible. There shouldn't be a huge shift between those two because really, if I want a long-term healthy life, I should be living by this compass all the time. And that's the objective. So I wonder how the rest of you guys are doing and how that break was for everybody else out there. If you have any thoughts on that and would like to share, please you can email me, but you can also post a comment in the Whole Life Challenge blog where the show notes of this show will go up. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how it's going for you. I decided to start I do a living room workout series, and I've been doing it now for, I think about a year. I've got 25 episodes, 25 different workouts. They're really short. I'd say really short. They're under 15 minutes each. They are designed to be done in a tight space. Really, all you need is about the size of a yoga mat space. I do it in my living room. I do it sometimes in my garage. You don't need any equipment. And I decided to start this series because I do one with each Whole Life Challenge. I decided to start this series with an athletic warm-up. And I really, really like it. I've actually committed to doing that every day of the Whole Life Challenge. I've already missed. I haven't done it every day this week. But it's about 15 minutes long. It goes through every part of the body. It is not stretching, but it does stretch. It's called dynamic stretching. So you're actually moving, and it's not like holding poses, holding moments in like yoga. So you might get a kick out of it. Go to YouTube. You can do a Google search. I'll put it in the show notes. You can do a Google search for living room workouts with Andy Petronic. You can go to the Whole Life Challenge YouTube channel, and you can find the playlist for the living room workouts. And the athletic warm-up one is number 24. I just shot and we'll be posting workout number 25 as this podcast comes up. Let's change gears. I want to introduce my guests. This is the third of probably 4 podcasts I'm going to do related to the Human Garage. I had the founders, both Garry Lineham and his wife, Anela. And these 2 guys, Brian and Alex, are therapists. Alex, who's worked with the Human Garage for several years, and Brian, who's relatively new. This podcast is completely different than the other 2. We get into the nuts and bolts of what happens at the Human Garage, what makes it different, how does the therapy do things that other therapy just doesn't. We talk about the way the body works and the way the body functions and the way your brain communicates with the rest of your body and how it can get hung up by things like emotional trauma. And that can exacerbate physical pain in your body. Things I just had never really put together before. And these guys are really, really good at what they do. They're incredibly intuitive. And that's one of the really cool things that the Human Garage has really harnessed, is the ability and the willingness, and actually the not just ability and willingness, but the focus of the program to access therapists' intuition. And what is the body telling me to do? How should I approach this? And they just do it incredibly well. They were my therapist when I went through the program at Human Garage. So I'm going to stop rambling. My commitment is to get these intros done quickly so guys can get to why you're here. And I'm under 7 minutes. That doesn't include the intro music. So I'm going to stop talking and bring in Alex and Brian. Enjoy. Human Garage is here.
Thank you.
Human Garage is in the house.
Yes, we are.
I mean, you guys are it, right? Is there anything else that goes with Human Garage besides Alex and Brian?
Oh no, we're an extension. I mean,
as far as when I was on the table, the only thing I really remember is the horrendous pain that you two put on me.
Well, we are responsible for some tears. Yeah, well, we'll find out where that comes from. Yeah. That's our mission. That's why we're fascinated by it.
We should stop now because I don't want to know.
You go down that rabbit hole.
We never found it. We never found it.
We hit pause on it. We hit pause on it. We put a pin in it.
Thankfully, God.
Well, it's all about timing.
Meaning, what do you mean timing?
When you're ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm always ready.
So if you came in for
ready.
a sprained ankle and you're walking and your hip on the other side of your body was compensating, you'd be ready to fix that. And we'd be able to knock that out.
Yep.
But what if it's emotional stress? What if it's something that prevents you from moving well because what emotional stress physically does to the body? And if that goes on for years and years and years.
So that's a good place as any to start. Yeah. What is the connection between emotional stress and physical stress, and why is that important?
It's a loaded question.
Because really,
this is where you make a statement and people will. Whew. So this is where we have to draw our stake in the ground.
Right. I mean, because I'm in the fitness business for 25 years, and although I understand there's a mind-body connection, and I've seen that in terms of performance of athletes, I haven't really seen an emotional connection to injury or to recovery from injury that, like physical injury. I don't mean like you can't perform better if you're free of an emotional tension or emotional stuff, but I haven't seen that translate to, okay, now your knee's better. I don't know. Is that what you're saying? That there is a...
Well, typically the way that we will explain it to our athletes is emotional typically exists in the body, right? And when you're on the field, on the court, whatever it is, the sport that you're playing, the coaches are usually telling athletes, don't think too much about it. Just do. Just play, right? Exist in the body and let it flow naturally, right? And when emotion is blocking that ability to do for whatever reason, but you're not able to be aware of what that emotion is, that's usually where the athletes will sort of lose some of that mind-body connection. And typically, especially when coming to injury, it's usually just, walk it off or just kind of play it off, right? You have to stand as this and nothing can hold you back. You are the ultimate athlete. So keep going, keep putting up the numbers, whatever that means, right? And so a lot of the times when athletes are recovering from injury, whatever the severity of it might be, a lot of the times they will cross that threshold a little bit, but given the fact that it isn't talked about enough, I don't think that they're able to recognize what that emotion might be connected to, if it is the injury or something else deeper than the injury, but that injury is allowing it to come up.
But how does the injury manifest emotionally, and then how does the emotion keep the injury present, keep that thing locked up, or keep the pain still there?
Yeah, I think it's tied. It doesn't know. I mean, say for an athlete specifically, you had a season-ending injury. It started to. It's the doubt that creeps in. Something happened. You went down. You didn't perform that well. You're sitting on the sidelines now. You're watching. That sadness. Now all of a sudden, doubt creeps in, and you start to question yourself. And that creeps into mind over matter. You are going to get better, but if you start doubting yourself, or you start, just having anxiety about not performing, you perform your whole life, and now your body is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and is preventing you from doing what you love, causes anxiety. You're somebody that's always used movement and your particular sport or activity as a way to release, and now you can't do that. So that causes that stress. What that stress is physically, adrenals, gets into mind over matter, and how you're responding to your adrenaline. Well, you're not getting that adrenaline response. So, when we talk about injuries and pain, breathing would be something that you do to actually calm those adrenals down. Well, what we're trying to get is why the pain manifests emotionally from a physical injury. Yeah, right, and that's a multifaceted question. So, because
it could be an acute injury, but it could be an injury that you experience over the course of 20 years of doing something.
Yes, and it finally went, or it's been linked to something. It's never,
because how do you define injury?
Poor posture and an unfortunate event.
Anything out of alignment.
So if something hurts, is that an injury?
Well, you look at levels of acute injuries. You could be walking around in an injured body and not have it prevent you from doing something, but we would look at it and go, oh man, that person's waiting to have an ACL tear. AC joint's going to go, depending on what side it is.
How do you know that?
You look at the way the body distributes pressure and holds its own posture.
Okay.
And from there, you can just see from the structures, okay, this is more meniscal. On the opposite side, we might see something on the ACL. We just do that through our diagrams and just visually watching their gait.
Because you guys start everybody with a postural assessment, right? You take their picture, I don't know. I'm remembering from what I did.
Yeah.
And then you watched me walk, and then you said, "Okay, we're gonna start," and you know what to do. And what are you looking for?
Well, it's kind of there's a and a lot of the pro trainers, when they're working with their athletes, especially like the combine guys, they're very obsessed with almost like perfected biomechanics is kind of like the terminology that they'll use, and it like looking almost as sexy as you want it to when they're running the 40 or whatever it might be, right? And so if you've ever we've all kind of maybe have seen those injury videos of just like a compilation of people having some, kind of freak accidents. And typically when you're watching an athlete or anybody run, walk, any of those kinds of things, given the sense of how you understand mechanically how the body likes to work together in totality, as you're moving forward or as you're moving side to side through a lateral movement, whatever it might be, typically when you see these imbalances like Brian is talking about, the body with its awareness around itself won't have the same type of understanding of where to plant, because initially it's already out of that alignment, right? And so the communication that it's pushing out before the foot even lands on the ground, as an example, coming from the hip, when that foot hits the ground, since the hip was out, the foot's going to hit out too once it hits the ground. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right? And so the communication that comes right back up to return to the hip is going to pass through every joint until it gets to the hip as well. So you have the ankle, the knee, right?
Yep.
And then that's where we see those susceptibilities for things like the ACL tears or the meniscal stuff, right? That happens in a lot of.
So by assessing posture or mechanics or gait mechanics based on what should be perfect posture, you can tell that person is a injury waiting to happen.
Yeah, they're
an
prone.
AC joint waiting to happen, or a meniscus waiting to happen, or
sort of like a risk assessment, essentially, right? So a lot of the times when you see, if you remember from the posture that you did, the analysis, when you have that green line that's down the center, so that's sort of the ideal line that the body wants to exist in. And then there's that red line that hovers kind of next to it, and that's sort of showing your negotiation or the compensations that the body's going under. And whenever that line is off to one side more than the other, typically the individual is going to be dealing with more pressure on that side of their body. And in the same token, as they're moving around, they're going to be breaking down more force than the other side of the body. So something as simple as stepping off of a curb and we see the kneecap go out, it's those kinds of things or those types of risks that you're under for just because your body has dysregulated pressure from side to side.
And when you ramp up the pressure, like if you're training or you're running or you're doing something that involves more force, obviously the forces on your joints or on your muscles are greater, so you have a greater propensity for injury or for messing them up. And
that's how we look at the body too. We stand up against gravity in an atmospheric pressure that is about 2,000 pounds of pressure on us at sea level.
The mic moves.
I know.
You can like. You just don't. It's not on a. It's
one of those
in your
radio
hand.
shows.
If we're not breathing into the mic, I'm not talking to it. Andy has a bunch of amateurs on.
Jesus,
this is amateur mic night.
You've seen pictures of people on TV, right?
Is this where my mouth is? I guess I'm. My body awareness.
We need to start some treatment right now.
I know. I need an alignment
Where is
protocol.
your mouth? Where is your mouth?
I thought
if I had you shut
your
your eyes and you did this, could you point to your mouth?
I think I would fail. This morning. Jeez. We talked about. I mean, so I didn't get any sleep. I got sick kids and
twins.
Of
two 3-year-old twins.
Well, adrenal stress. There we go. My adrenals.
Are you or them?
Oh. It's all the same now, I think. Yeah. So I mean, that's now. If I'm an athlete, I'm going to perform today. I've got adrenal fatigue. You clearly see that my body awareness is off right now. I mean, just those micro adjustments because your body is not feeling in tune. The second your adrenals start to pump a little harder to respond to a deficit somewhere, lack of sleep, poor nutrition, dehydration, now your body's looking at it as it creates a hierarchy system of what's the most important. And it always goes back to living and keeping yourself moving and functioning, not performing optimally when things are deficient. So an athlete in particular, or someone, even an avid marathon runner, you're pumping, you're working hard. And if you have an adrenal stress, your body is not placing your performance as a necessary thing it needs to work on. It needs to preserve the organ function. It needs to keep your body aware, standing up, moving, and it might tighten up because it's going into protection mode.
So while you're trying to do your thing, your marathon or whatever it is you're doing, it's preoccupied with taking care of something else that it shouldn't.
That's the brain's
really
job. That's the brain's job, and everyone thinks the brain is in charge. The brain it's an input system, and it responds to a negative stimulus.
Okay.
So it always is correcting. It doesn't know how to better itself for optimum performance. That's where the body and the brain talk to each other. And your conscious brain needs to be aware of what your body's doing in order to make the right decision for itself. versus your brain automatically compensating for you. You see these things Alex is talking about, being on that green line with our posture. When we separate and we plug those dots and we see that they're very far off that green line, they're not aware of that. Their brain compensated around that, and it created that current posture that they exist in.
But the brain's getting its input from all the sensory neurons that are telling it what's going on. But are the sensory neurons waiting for the brain to tell them what to do? Or is the body making decisions? And is the fascia doing things without the brain necessarily even knowing what it's doing?
Well, there's a couple of things. The way that we explain it up until this date, it's actually a little ironic.
Which is an excellent point.
Yeah.
Up until this date, because
it changes.
Well, it constantly is evolving.
It's developing,
and our explanation of it as we continue to discover more and more comes out a little easier. We use analogies, as you've heard, when you're in the garage. We obviously use a lot of car type of analogies or things like that. But ways to just explain what exactly is happening between the brain, the fascia, or the mind and the body. And the body was designed to walk as its basic fundamental ability. Right?
Crawl, walk, stand, crawl, walk.
And within those three things, your brain is constantly trying to protect you from falling over and hitting your head.
Okay.
Right?
That's why we have so many proprioceptors in our feet.
Exactly, right?
Okay.
And that being said, contralateral movement, meaning two opposing actions. So if you think about walking, when your right leg goes forward, your left shoulder comes forward.
Yep.
Right? That action itself is the hardest thing for the brain to actually spit out as an action. Right? And so what do you mean the hardest thing? The hardest thing for the
neurologically
brain to
challenged.
Neurologically,
when I get on
when
I got on a unicycle, that seems much harder.
So sure.
well,
you're no longer walking.
You're trying to stabilize your body's doing that action twice. Right. To stabilize. So he's talking about contralateral. One side moves, the other side does the opposite movement.
Well, that's what's happening on the unicycle.
Well, yes, but you're also, at the same time, certain muscles are stabilizing your core so you don't laterally tilt and wobble over.
So, I do. And also, you've never seen me unicycle. I probably do that more than I am actually up on the bike.
Right, yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, so what ends up happening here is, and the example that I use is typically as kids, at one point or another, you've been challenged to pat your head and rub your belly at the same time.
Yep.
Right? And for whatever reason, as kids, we always failed miserably at it.
Yep.
Well, here's why. And it's the brain's ability to actually do those two separate actions at the same time. The closer you are to alignment, the easier it is for the brain to perceive that as a top priority because there isn't the rest of that white noise. And getting back into that, it's the further...
But why would a kid not be good at that? Is it because they're a kid?
Not necessarily. I mean...
Because I'm better at it now. I can do it now, pretty much.
Right.
I think.
Well, so and you also as we there you go. There you go.
He's demonstrating it.
Oh, he's yep.
Oh, look at that. It's beautiful.
Switch
a little better.
Hands.
Yeah. Switch your hands. You always go to the most comfortable side.
So wait, hold on. You said you were amazing at this.
There we go.
What are you doing now?
now he's rubbing the head and patting the tummy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Can you do it with the other hand though? No, go back to there.
There you go. So
look at this.
So right,
I'm really thinking.
An interesting
8-year-old Andy couldn't do this.
Yeah, no, I don't think
so. But he grew up and look at him now.
And it's also kind of like a multitasking type of thing as well, right? And it's just as the brain continues to develop throughout life, adolescence, stuff like that, the motor control ability and your ability to push out actions or performance becomes better. It's the same thing as an athlete kind of fine tuning his jump shot. His slap shot, whatever it might be, his backhand. But because it's the hardest thing for the brain to actually use as an action, right? And it's the basic fundamental that the body was designed to do. Any millimeter, even a millimeter out of alignment is information being sent to the brain. And usually, right, because it's trying to protect yourself from falling over and hitting the head, it becomes excessive information, which ends up becoming white noise. And so kind of going back into what the athletes are dealing with.
So then what happens to those motor neurons if the brain is overwhelmed and, can't give it the attention it needs? I mean, they have to make their own decision?
You just start dealing with it eventually.
Your body,
and you just become
no
accustomed to that.
Right.
Yeah. And now you operate your daily life at that higher level of baseline stress.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize because you don't know what feeling good is anymore.
Because it's not even necessarily painful. It's just a little adaptation out of normal.
Exactly.
Right.
And then it just kind of fills your cup up. And we've seen just random pains that come up with people is when you start adding those compensations more and more, and they keep raising up your stress level.
So pain hits when the stress or whatever that thing that's been causing is high enough that it registers. It's got to register above a certain threshold before pain happens.
Yes.
Correct.
So God knows, like I've got this pain in my hip that you guys have been working on, that God knows how long I've had something off that hasn't registered as pain.
Well, and that's
right. I mean, it could be 25 years.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And that kind of taps into the kind of chronic and acute injuries. And typically what happens is, so the brain can perceive your top 3 pains at once. The fourth type of information that you try to feed it, again, becomes part of that white noise. Right? And there are different parts of your body that go under different types of stress, right? So our hands, modern day, we're texting, we're on the computer a lot of times, and our feet, we're walking. 2 completely different types of stress. The rest of the body deals with it as well. And what ends up happening is your different parts of your body can deal with certain thresholds of pain different than others, right? So the hips, the sacrum, kind of the core of the entire body, was almost designed to carry a lot of stress, right? And so a lot of times, even when clients, athletes, anybody, they come in and, they're presenting all of their misalignments, and I'll ask them, are you dealing with any low back pain at all? And they'll say, no, low back is fine. I'm actually good right now, right? There is tension and pain in the low back, but they're currently feeling it in the upper back, more up in the neck.
Well, it's funny because what I was going to say when you were, because I'm thinking back to the way it was when I first came in, I didn't have any pain. I mean, this presents when I do something that actually makes it my hip, but as soon as you touch something like in these weird places that I didn't even realize, I mean, it's like I fly off the table.
Yeah,
which to me is bizarre. Like I'm walking around life with no pain at all, and then all of a sudden, just a little bit of force in one spot, and fa-vam! It's insane.
Yeah, and that's where we look at is when your body's ready to receive it, because you could be walking around right now, and I've seen it with you, and I've worked on you, that something goes and you just go, well, how'd that happen? I mean, I never had an issue my whole life, and all of a sudden it goes. The body leaves these signs. These are there. I mean, this gets into our chemistry, which we haven't talked about much, but autoimmune disease, cancer, these things don't just appear.
Right.
Your body has these signs. It's what levels you need to tune into. What goes off.
Cutting in with a quick break in the action. This is the time that I tell you about The Good Kitchen. They are a company that provides whole life challenge compliant meals, ketogenic meals, paleo compliant meals, vegetarian meals. They're sustainably sourced, incredibly high quality. They rotate throughout the year, seasonally and monthly. They deliver it right to your doorstep via FedEx. It's been one of the greatest additions to my life to give myself I wouldn't even say luxury. I started off thinking it was a luxury, but it's really not a luxury. Giving myself lunches to eat every single day of the week. It is a game changer, a life changer for me. I really suggest you try it out. They're a sponsor of the Andy Petronic podcast. They'll deliver. They'll get you signed up. Go to their website. Use this link, thegoodkitchen.com/WLC. thegoodkitchen.com/WLC, and you'll get 15% off your first order. There you have it. Let's get back to the podcast.
What goes on?
How do you tune? So how does an individual that's listening to this, can you tune into this stuff without getting to the point where it's a catastrophic failure? And well, maybe not catastrophic, but it's failure enough that you need to go in and see somebody.
Define tuning in. You mean?
Well, okay, so let's just take my hip thing.
Yeah.
How could I have known in advance that something was coming prior to it happening? Is it possible?
Call Sarah, schedule an appointment at the garage. No, that's the hardest thing. I mean, it's the baseline stress. It's the white noise that's been appearing in your body. You have to, these are providers out there for healthcare that aren't looking at these factors, and that what we're trying to do is change that culture and be able to be more proactive in the healthcare industry. Right. Even more so than it has been now. I mean, if you're in the gym and you do a squat or a lunge and you've got a coach or a trainer that's telling you you're
you're constantly rolling into your instep and your knees are knocking in, or you're the way you squat, you've got one of those duck-footed squats.
Externally, he's turning his foot out right now. Yeah,
like super wide, and you got an internal rotation of the hips.
And you see that all the time. That's such a common one.
All the time. I get so many questions. It just flooded my brain. Are you a prime candidate for, at some point, something probably will happen that will cause pain?
Oh yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Name it. I mean, just start.
But you're not. Are you born that way? I mean, are all infants able to squat?
You started to mention this before. I mean, about the children about being able to pat your head and rub your, and then you develop it over time. Or where do we lose that? Where does that happen? We're seeing it more and more now. Look at technology. Alex touched on the thumb and the fingers and the brain being able to, basically, your fingers and your thumb occupy a hell of a lot of space in your brain, more so than any other part, percentage-wise, of your body. Texting, technology has caused...
Because the dexterity that's required
is diminished.
Exactly.
Well, it's changed, but you also aren't utilizing your hands the way they were designed as a human being should be using his hands. Think of...
And a combination of that with walking, too. So a lot of the shoes that people are wearing are women in high heels, stuff like that. They're not properly striking the ground. Going back to where you said a lot of proprioception and a lot of receptors on the feet, hands as well. So we think... oftentimes that a lot of the neurofatigue that we're seeing just in society in general is from these 9 to 5 staring at computer screens. I will say that has a bit to do with it, but it's also the improper use of how we're using our hands and our feet all day.
Causing, and now you see that alone is causing that white noise to turn up. Before you've ever gone out, you could be the guy that foam rolls, you could be the girl that runs all the time, does everything, and they still.
But they go back to their high heels, and they go back to their
definitely.
And then, so what good does it do? What good does it do? What good does 10 minutes of foam rolling do if you go back to 8 hours in high heels?
I mean,
maintenance.
Maintenance is one thing for sure, because it's the same thing as, again, going to a car analogy, right? Is well, what good is it me flooring it everywhere I go? And acting like Speed Racer down La Brea if it's going to keep throwing off my wheel alignment because I hit 5 potholes, but then I just take it right back to, right? So
if you take it back to the garage.
That's an actual example of how Alex drives, by the way.
It's gotten a little better. I've been able to dodge the first 3
But if you actually take care of the car in between, knowing that you're going to treat it the way you treat it, and you actually take care of it by taking it to the garage, getting the alignment checked, looking at the tires, making sure you don't need, then I can see your point,
and it's
that
a level,
foam rolling can actually
well, because now
help that.
And also what the client is doing in that action is a level of awareness is raised too,
right.
So because they're also aware of exactly what they're doing and exactly what they're trying to maintain, it creates a better connection between mind and body as well.
Right.
Oftentimes people are just like, I don't know, I'm just rolling out these places because whatever. And then I'm just going to go get ready and go about my day. But the connection piece between all of what they're doing, between a morning routine for maintenance, whatever it might be, and then going throughout their day, if they were more mindful about each and every action and the way that it plays into each other and what I need to do after going through a day like this, changes the way that the body will respond as well too. Because we also have to step back and remember that the main job of the brain is really to evaluate your internal and your external environment and adapt you to both constantly. So sometimes, like for you, when you were mentioning, I didn't have any pain. I wasn't really perceiving any pain in the body. Well, your brain was on to the next thing. Your brain is constantly adapting everything. And if it's constantly held up by pain, it can't adapt to the next thing. And so it gets to a point where that pain does no longer bother any of that sensory receptors.
It learns how to just...
And it's just
ignore that.
Yeah, beautifully.
You're thinking about the next phone call or the next meeting you have to take, or you're hungry, right? Because that's, again, another cycle that your body goes through, stuff like that. So now all of a sudden things are moving up the chain in the hierarchy per se, right? Not that the pain isn't still present, it's just not most important for your brain until somebody grabs an elbow or a thumb and then jabs them right into it.
It's amazing because I'm sure you guys have seen that video where they do you're supposed to count the number of basketball tosses and there's a gorilla that walks through the middle of the screen. Like it just amazes me how much goes on in the world, and maybe even in our own bodies, is what I'm hearing you guys saying, that we aren't aware of. Yeah, we can't be.
That's every single person we walk into. It's what level that awareness has gone away from. And I've had this internal debate on myself is, well, technology has boosted in the last 15 years. So many, I mean, cell phones with the screens, everyone, I mean, this is different. So as we start to treat kids, college age people and under the age of 30, millennials, do they know what original alignment feels like? I mean, they've been inundated their whole life. And now it's almost trying to change that and almost... Because if you don't have a reference point of where you started or what balance is, then we need to find a way to establish that for your body. That process takes a little bit longer. So it's dealing with the baby boomer generation or Generation Y. You know, they grew up ride the bicycles outside all the time. It was a different time. They know what their body feels like. I find a lot of success with them, even though they're a lot older, from understanding what original baseline, what feeling good is supposed to be. It's younger people that are, you know, we see 14-year-olds coming into us. I mean, their alignment is out of whack completely.
Is that because they don't play? They're not outside.
Combination of play and just lifestyle. I mean, look at where, you know, it's different. You know, yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's a different time.
It's the, you know, like, you know, you went to school. You had recess, you know, those kinds of things. There was always some sort of competition going on.
No one had a cell phone.
Right. So what are even the smallest actions that you're doing throughout the day? Back in the day, waiting at the bus stop or climbing the pole, climbing whatever, playing some hopscotch, something like that.
Well, if you look at the way playgrounds used to be built, I read this article. I think it was on the Art of Manliness. They had the history of the playground. And like the playgrounds came around in the 1850s and they were originally designed in Germany. And I mean, there were slides that were like 3 stories high off the ground. There was no safety gear on the ground. There were poles and ropes to climb and literally vertical ladders to get up on top of the monkey bars. If you fell off these monkey bars, you were going to break your ankle. Yeah. There's no question.
It would be Germany that invent that.
Jesus.
Here we go.
Here we go. Down that rabbit hole. Leave it to the New Yorker.
Are you German?
What?
Are you German?
A little bit. Irish Italian.
Yeah.
If you could hear me screaming, I have to pull the mic away. That's the Italian-Irish conflict.
Got it.
That's my childhood.
There it is.
Blasting through this mic right now.
And New Yorker.
That on top of it.
Yeah, that doesn't help things.
No, not for peaceful conversations.
Yeah, so like the elimination of I was just talking to my wife about this. It seems like we've made all these advances in the safety, in the ability to keep our kids safe. Are they really advances? You know, like it's a really interesting question. Nobody's going to get killed on a playground.
Exactly.
Like they could have died on some of those if you fell on your head or paralyzed or whatever.
Well, look where we are. Look at what state we're in right now. I mean, there's a lawsuit for everything. So you value. Right. I mean, that's where corporations will value. You know, it's always higher. You know, who's installing these playgrounds right now? Who's responsible for the children?
Squishy mats are not helping
proprioceptive feedback.
It's horrible for proprioception. Right?
Exactly.
There's no feedback when you get squish. I mean, that's one of the first things I teach when I teach barefoot running. Like you need a hard surface you need a ground reactive force.
Exactly. Right. Because it'll translate from, you know, the Pacinian receptors in your foot all the way through, going up in the hip and the ankle.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, your body is pre-activating before it ever takes a step based on feedback from the foot.
Right.
So one of something interesting that kind of popped into my mind was, you know, take away the safety mechanism of these playgrounds. And back in the day, I mean, parents, they used to go to the school on the weekends even, or anywhere to a park and play on the playground, go to the park, right?
Yep.
And so in those moments, obviously now you have an adult's perspective watching their kid or the babysitter, whoever it is, watching the kid as they're playing on the playground and giving them cues of like, hey, that's probably not a good idea, but you know, try it this way. Mm-hmm. And now they're still enjoying the playground, no safety mechanisms.
Well, you're talking about responsible parents. And responsible babysitters.
Well, I mean, even not parent that turns around, parent A turns around, and kid still breaks the leg.
Yeah, right.
Still getting
it
some of the exactly. Still learning from that. I mean, we're all still here and alive.
Yeah, right.
You know, and there's still many
no helmets.
Yeah, right.
No seatbelts.
Never.
No. I mean, I had major. I like to look back and go, my God, how am I still alive? How did I make it? like without all the modern safety gear.
Right.
No padding. I mean, I just taught Dashiell how to skateboard yesterday. It's the first time ever.
There you go.
And we got wrist guards, we got elbow pads, we got knee pads. And he asked me, he's like, "How did you do it when you were growing up?" I'm like, "Well, it was
Strongest survive.
It was a wooden skateboard. It was trucks that were put on it with from a friend of mine.
Yes.
There was no safety anything.
Yeah.
There was no adult supervision.
Yeah.
It would just go out and good luck to you, And if you had the impetus to like throw yourself down a hill and not really worry about crashing, then you probably learned how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think it's fear too. I mean, there's
absolutely
a fear. Yeah, it's where it is now. You mean just go out and play, go out and run down the hill. No one's wait a minute, who's going to be there? What are you going to do? Don't do that. You'll get hurt. It goes into a lot. Watch out for the wrist guards, by the way, for your son.
Really?
Well, I mean, you might you sprain the wrist, but I look at where the wrist guard stops.
Yeah, right.
Then you're snap. Yeah. I think obviously it's to prevent the growth plate from being injured, but.
So
teach him how to fall.
So you're saying I need to put him in a full body cast before we go out skateboarding?
Bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap.
Yes.
Tuck and roll.
That's a great idea. Bubble wrap.
Yeah.
Just wrap him up.
But that is, I mean, it's,
don't suggest that to my wife because she'll actually say we're doing that.
She'll be out of here in 2 seconds to go stop
bubble wrapping him on the way to school.
Unplugging everything. What is this going on in here?
Good God. He'll never get hurt.
So what if a parent, instead of buying all of the safety and protective gear, instead, taught the kid how to fall, as an example.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be, in the street, like here, sink or swim, but I mean, you're in the basement or something like that. And you're going, here, look, let's simulate this. And when you fall, here's what you should get in a habit of doing as a reaction.
Well, martial arts are a great one for that.
It would involve being okay with the consequences because, of course, when you fall, like if you didn't wear a helmet and you didn't wear any of the let's just pretend like you didn't wear any of the safety gear, you could teach somebody all the right ways to do it. You could do it in the gym, you could do it in martial arts or in gymnastics or whatever, and still crack your head on the pavement because you didn't have time to react.
Sure.
So you would have, if in that scenario, you'd have to be okay with that consequence.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, is that okay? Is that acceptable?
Right.
For most, I would say for the predominance of American parents, that's not acceptable.
Right.
Well, you talk about reaction time. I mean, that's physically going into stress of what's going on. We look at how your body, how quickly. That's another thing. If you can't react in time, that's a huge problem. Mm-hmm. Just a daily lifestyle. Mm-hmm. We see in cranial torsions and misalignments physically with the skeletal structure.
What's a cranial torsion?
So you have your bone, your skull has multiple bones in it, and inside those little suture bones, they can move. Even though they call them as immovable joints, they move, and you can feel that with pressure.
They're not like joints like your fingers.
Not like joints like your fingers.
Not quite as movable, but
they expand. Well, so you take a deep breath, your skull expands and contracts a little bit. So it's to adapt to the pressure.
Mm-hmm. And I was just going to say, it's the ability to even feel that kind of pressure. You would hope that you could have a little bit of expansion, like thinking about like an airplane flight or something like that, right?
Yeah, right.
So we could see that, if those alignments are off, Alex talked about before, like a millimeter off, that's what we're talking about, little torsions. And that starts to, bring the adrenal stress, but it also brings your body's reaction time down because it's constantly setting that signal for alignment. So you go to turn your head, say you're driving and you turn your head and that turns into some of the torsion patterns you have in the skull and into the spinal cord. Your reaction time is slowed. So you see a car coming. Your reaction time is slowed because your brain is having to handle things that it wouldn't that are in the way.
Yeah,
and it can't predict what's coming.
It's like your computer when it hangs up, when it's got that little spinning pinwheel.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's got too many other things working in the background.
And that's exactly it. Body, computer, brain, CPU. Constantly running the programs. Way too many programs. You're trying to command, force, quit, or whatever, right? And
let's keep it. Let's your cell phone. Close your apps off your phone.
Right. Yeah.
Huh. I never really thought of it that way. That's really interesting. Yeah. So treating an injury could actually improve a lot of things that aren't even connected to the injury.
That's why, yes. You have to, and that's you just need to see you need to understand. I got to get my diagnostics of my body running, and we can plot out what's optimal, what's not, and demonstrate specific examples, because you can go to your doctor and they can show you a blood work panel and you have no idea what the hell that means. You know, you're just missing it. Like, what does this mean? And if you have to have the ability to relate specifically to how this person's life is every single day. Why is this important to fix this factor? What is the reason that this factor is off? And then you start to develop that trust. You start building that picture up of this person's life, and you don't even know them. And we've been seeing that because we're looking at different factors. And we saw that, you know, when you came in for your assessment, we could look at your test and see how you respond to emotional stress. And then interviewing you, and we have our sessions are about 90 minutes to 2 hours. You get a lot of face time with this person. You start to be able to really piece together what's going on. And we see how many people a day, and, you know, you start seeing patterns and pattern recognition, and you can start to deduce this is what this person's doing in their life, and they develop trust that way with you.
Yep. So, and it's a lot to relate it back to a lot of the athletes. It's seeing these patterns when you come in and we have these consultations. Because we're able to assess all of the patterns and the things that we've seen throughout with a lot of the different clients, we're going right to the problem. So the next hour that we're spending in the conversation isn't different things of trying to figure out, okay, where are we trying to start this navigate? No, we have the starting point. Let's spend the next hour talking about everything else to navigate through this. So it's a lot of things that sometimes is a challenge for the client to really have the brain to start perceiving what's right, what's off, what actually might be true information, what might not be true information. And for athletes, tapping back into the emotion, sometimes it isn't the injury that offsets the emotion, but the injury is presenting itself in that way as another test for the athlete, because whatever emotion they feel as the first trigger, as soon as not being able to do something or not something that they want, right? Whether it's losing the game, whatever it might be, how is that emotion now holding you back from being a better athlete? And I actually was having a conversation with a friend he's also a client. He's kind of a new friend of mine. He practicing martial arts. His teacher came up to him day one and said, anger is your biggest problem. It's going to hold you back from any performance. And he kind of stepped back. He goes, what? His teacher stepped back and smacked him across the face. And
the first session?
The first session. Yeah. And immediately, right, what's he doing? He's breathing really hard. He's got this anger, resenting. He's like, anger is going to be the one thing that holds you back. And he's like, you know, and he sees it again. He sees it coming up and he steps back, smacks him again.
What?
And, yeah,
come on. You're making this up.
I promise. I mean, this is a guy
Who does that? Does the guy go back to this guy?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's how you weed out the ones right away.
Exactly, that's how you
level.
weed out you. This is exactly how you're weeding out the guys. But to his point, it was saying, hey, even if you get injured and that injury is now holding you back, that's holding you back physically. What's holding you back emotionally? Is it the injury that's causing the emotion, or was the emotion already present and the injury is now exasperating it? So
they're inextricably linked at some point after a while once 100%. You start compounding life.
And we see it a lot in sports psychology relating back to, you know, their actual recovery and stuff like that.
Yep.
And because of that, it's really good to be able to step back and make that assessment for a lot of the athletes so that they can not only recover from the injury, but maybe also get rid of a lingering emotion, and that was their chance in order to do it. And
how's this guy doing now? Is he
great?
Was he on board with that assessment?
He was.
And what
believe it or not. And
how long has he been training?
Right, it is
I
mean, he's, to my knowledge, a lot of different styles of martial arts. He's now into more Muay Thai. But I'd say, I mean, over 5 years, and more than over 5 years. Yeah.
Wow.
There's my Muay Thai representation.
There you go.
That's a hell of a start.
5 Points Academy.
It is, right? It is. And I mean, an example I could give back in school, my first day sitting down in one of the pre-med classes. I mean, this is a lecture of, I don't know, at least 300 people. Everybody sits down. Professor's all the way at the top, turns the mic on, sits down, and his first words are, at least 85% of the individuals in this class are going to kill somebody.
What?
And that's exactly it. And everybody's looking at each other like, what is he talking about? He goes, do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a doctor? And his whole point was, somewhere along the lines, you're going to make a call or a decision, and somebody's life is going to be on the line. And you might make the wrong decision or the wrong call. And now it costs that person their life.
Right.
Your day still goes on. There's still 3 or 4 more patients that you need to see throughout the rest of the day. How are you going to be able to handle that? Right? 150 people at least got up and walked out of the classroom immediately.
Really?
I promise, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was his way of going, kind of similar to what we're doing in the consultation, right? Is we're getting right to the problem and then having a conversation. We're not trying to have a conversation to get to the problem or the root cause or whatever it might be, right?
You have to provoke what you see and trust. You talk about tuning in, and that's a skill that we're trying to cultivate for our clients and in ourselves and our own staff. Being able to provoke that issue. I mean, Alex, talk about the instructor of the martial arts class. He smacked him. How did he know he had an anger issue? He had never met the guy.
I don't know.
You're perceptive. You start to see, you recognize the signals that the body is giving, and you become good at receiving those signals.
Right.
So you can identify who's got the issue before. And that's somebody, I mean, that instructor right there, he's somebody who is, the white noise is down in his body. He's got the balance, so he can receive new signals and new patterns. And this is what typical Western medicine has gone away from. And this is the beauty of an Eastern side, and it's what we've tried to pull in a little bit, is that optimization of the self. And it's not a chemical intrusion all the time. It is unwinding your own pattern.
Right. And it's not even to call out the separation of the two medicines.
Yes.
But he's right.
The extremes on either side.
Western medicine is we know it as more masking. Right? No, don't worry about that. Just go home and get some rest. Take a pill. You're fine. Yep. Mask it. Continue to mask it, which is kind of similar to where you've kind of found yourself in. I don't have any pain.
Yeah.
Well, there is pain present. Societally, major Western medicine, we're just taught to ignore or mask it.
Or wait till it becomes a problem to stop you.
Exactly.
We'll give you something.
That's
trust
kind of been
the
my
professional.
mentality, right?
Yeah.
And not even to say that that's the type of medicine that you lean on more so or not, but it still affects our mentality. We see it in marketing all over the place. I mean, every other commercial is a drug commercial.
Yeah, right.
There's all of these different types of things that are pushed into us that cause us to sort of settle into this type of mentality, whereas more of the Eastern approach is going, no, we're going to sit right here and we're going to deal with it, and you're going to deal with it.
Right.
And the reason for that is kind of taping back to the tuning in, and not to say that when clients come in, by the way, that we're going to challenge them and squeeze them to the point that makes them uncomfortable in any sort of weed out whatsoever. It's up to them the whole time, and we're creating a very, very comfortable and open space for them to share as much as they'd like to and or not, right? But for more of the Eastern approach to it, when we're tuning into the body, essentially what's happening is, yes, we're getting more towards alignment, so more of that white noise is pretty dissipated. But then we're also trusting it when it comes in, whatever it is that we're receiving, right? So the teacher walking up to the student going, I can feel anger from this person. I know that this person has an anger problem. It isn't an ego thing saying like, oh, I know more than anybody else. It's I've tapped into coming in tune with my body, and we share frequencies as humans, and so I'm just picking up on something. Kind of the similar when you're in a group with a group of friends in a room, and you guys are all turned around, and let's say your wife walks in the room, and she's upset. Haven't said a word to each other, but immediately you turn around and you feel that energy. You know she's angry, right? So the more that we tap into that ability or that skill, and then learn how to trust it, all the information and knowledge exists inside the body, and that's why for most of our clients, we're just facilitators. They have it in them. We're just helping to bring it out, right?
That's a huge.
It's really interesting because I've been, probably to my, I don't know if it's to my benefit or to my detriment at this point. I've been able to shut things off, like shut off receptors without drugs, without masks, external masks. Yeah, I mean, I had to. I was Marine. I've done a lot of adventure stuff, and now I'm still able to do it. I'm still able to go to the gym. I've had this hip issue now for about 5 years, and I'm still able to. It doesn't stop me from doing anything. It doesn't hold me back. But I can tell it's not getting any better, and it's getting slightly worse. Really, really, really slowly. And I'm constantly tempted to continue to do what I've always done, which is just ignore it and just go in and do my squats and do my deadlifts and do the training like I always, because I can. Habits. I still can. And I'm starting to make some decisions now. It's funny because it came up last week. The CrossFit Games Open is happening right now, and the workout last week was this one called Diane, which was using 225-pound deadlift. You do a 21 deadlifts with 225. and then 21 handstand push-ups, and then 15 deadlifts, and then 15 handstand push-ups, and then 9. It's always been a really fun workout for me, a really good workout for me. But then the workout continued after that, doing it again, but this time with 315 back to 21. And then instead of the handstand push-ups, it's a 50-foot handstand walk, and then 15, and then the handstand walk. And I just thought, I can do that. I could at least do the first part.
Yeah.
But the disruption in my life that will happen as a result of doing that, it's just not worth it. It's not even worth it to scale the weight and to do it fast. Not even
there. You listen to your body.
I was going to say, how did you make all those decisions?
Yeah. Something switched in my head, because I was about to go into the gym. On Friday, typically I get together with a noon class and I go in and do the workout. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go and do this. And even if I scale it, maybe I won't do 225. Maybe I'll do 185. Mm-hmm. Why am I doing handstand push-ups and deadlifts today? Like, what do I need those today? I mean, I think everyone needs them in some capacity, because you got to be able to lift things off the ground. And I think overhead pressing ability is a really good ability. But do I need that today? Is that really the best thing for me today? And something, I don't know. It was a very strange thing. Like, I was like, no. It wasn't even no. It was fuck no.
Yeah.
And why would I do that?
You felt that in your body.
Absolutely.
Explain that. Like, tap into that, because
it was really weird. Like, I'm done with this. That was the thought I had. I'm done with this. Like, I don't need that.
That was a major moment for you.
Yeah.
What about you can turn that pathos of that thought process and that feeling into small things that you do every single day. We do it in treatment. Every step. Do I need to release this muscle? Do I need to work on this muscle?
Today,
right now.
Right now.
Do I need to do this
No,
next?
That's when you guys are talking to yourself, right? I mean, you guys are...
Exactly.
You were very strange.
Yeah. When you're on the table, we haven't really said much, and when we...
And they start mumbling. They all start mumbling. Like, it's like...
What?
Are they homeless? Are they... Like, what is happening here? Are they drunk, homeless, or there's really something wrong? And they start it's
a difference.
So what are you doing when you're doing this mumbling?
Well, it's different people's techniques of tuning in.
We're having a conversation that you had with yourself when you were at the gym. We're doing the same thing. Sometimes you'll hear us mumble a bit more, because at the same day that our whole day is running, you have thoughts running, there's a lot of things happening around you. Mm-hmm. I almost have to cause a little bit of vibration through my vocal cords, just so that I can hear it a little bit better as I'm having this conversation, because my thought alone is just getting drowned out by everything around.
So you touch... Just take me through the process. You touch somebody's hamstring, and what do you say? What do you...
It's not just like a magic. We have an intention that we set of what we're trying to do. Okay, I need to release this hamstring, but wait a minute. All right, the person's coming with back tension. I know I need to relieve that. All right. Set the intention, ask the question specifically, do I need to release this right now based on my intention of what I'm trying to get done?
And by that, what we're always trying to get done, or what we're trying to start to get done, is by helping to restore just gait, just your basic ability to walk at full capacity. So while somebody's on the table and that hamstring needs to be released on the table, how is that going to translate or affect them when they get back up, stand against those two forces as gravity and atmospheric pressure, and start to walk? And that's where more of the integration will happen. So you release the muscle, but how does that matter when you move? Because feeling good on the table is one thing. Feeling good while you get up to walk is a completely different.
There's a lot of standing up and walking, and then reevaluating.
Well, you're the neurological inputs that your body's going through when you're laying down completely calm, and then you go to stand up. Just holding your own posture that's running thousands, millions of programs a second. And a millisecond.
You might have even noticed with you when we were on the table, we did some of the releases or other things while you were standing. Even. Yeah. Because it switches.
I've never had therapy done on me standing.
Right.
Very strange.
And that also...
No one's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that also baffles us just as much as people not taking into consideration gravity and atmospheric pressure. If we're always adapting to our environment, that is our environment. So when looking at rehab, I don't really care what your body does while you're on the table, because you're not going to float out of the garage and float about your day. You're going to get up and walk and move and do the things that you're going to do. So putting the added stress of those two adaptations while we're doing a release and then putting you through the exact motion that we're intending on getting you back to helps the body start to figure it out that much quicker.
And you said something, you said putting the added stress, and people suddenly always assume stress bad. No, there's a certain amount of stress that your body needs to respond to things. So don't think that, standing is a stress, is a stressor in the body causing stress. The body responds appropriately. We need a balance of that. It's when the stress rises up too high at a baseline level is when we get into trouble.
Exactly.
So when he says, your body under stress, that's not a bad thing necessarily.
Right.
You have to,
movement is good, and everybody knows that movement is good, but movement can't be achieved without resistance or friction.
Well, it's like what happened to the guy that spent a year in space. I mean,
yes, the astronaut with his twin.
He came back, right? I don't know, what is his name?
It was yesterday.
I thought you said it.
The astronaut with his twin is DNA is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I forget the name.
Changed significantly
Yes.
for him because he was not under gravity or pressure, right?
Exactly.
Accidentally, one of the biggest studies and discoveries we've had in a long time is going to be born out of that right there. That changes the model of the way medicine and science are looking at things right there. Genetics, epigenetics, the way the body can adapt. That is huge. So a lot of stuck people are going to start to open their minds, and it's going to start changing medicine. There's a paradigm shift happening right now, and that is one of them right there. I mean, that flips a lot of models that we deal with every day in medicine on its head right there.
You mean what occurred because
what occurred, and then what's going to occur when he comes back?
He's back.
Yeah, as he's back, and as he continues to
trying to get back to his normal life.
Does it change again? Does it? This is the establishment here. Is what? Now he gets back to Earth. He lives. We compare his brother, and they compare what's different.
Yep.
This is just the working model.
I thought on the space station they had a fake gravity. They had from centrifugal force. I thought that I don't really know much about it.
What movie?
All those movies where it's spinning and it's spinning fast enough that spinning fast enough that they actually can walk normally. Maybe they don't do that. I don't know.
Well, they have the treadmills that they use now to keep them. I mean, you have to. I mean, that's how they're able to keep people in space longer.
Yeah,
it's the physical stress that breaks them down.
It's funny because it's kind of like their version of biohacking.
Yeah,
in a way, and
yeah, right.
It is, and so it's depths of the ocean and parts unknown of space. The further that we want to get to know more, we should look back into the human body before looking at the external environment and what changes we can make to that, and get better to understanding the body and ourselves and things like that as well, so that when somebody does come back from space, we understand how to properly rehab them to send them back on another mission, so that doesn't actually cause so much severity that they can't, by the time they go and they come back, it's
it's a laboratory for the body.
Because I wanted to talk about pressure and gravity, because I know that's one of the foundations of kind of what you guys are...
Treatment philosophy, yeah, absolutely.
And, like the 5 floating bones in the body, and like... It's a very foreign concept, although it's very interesting that those are the two forces that are on us from... They're kind of the white noise, right? They're from the moment we're born, gravity affects us and pressure affects us.
And treatment models are based off of cadavers. I always see that as everything, when you teach, everything is this model based off bicep does this, they do that. Under pressure, it might do this, but they're not really looking at it how does it flex when you're standing? How do you treat this person when you're standing and flexed? Standing against pressure, gravitational forces. No one's looking at that. If I squeeze your bicep right now and you go to flex, it becomes diminished. You can't really curl that bicep anymore.
Yeah.
That's an exaggeration of what pressure does. Now, when you treat that...
But if I'm always under pressure...
What's causing the pressure, though? Is it the fascial system around you that's tightening up? Is it because of dehydration causing external pressure?
Pressures change based on what's going on inside your body.
Definitely.
Yes.
And external as in like elevation, parts of, like Denver, things like that.
Right.
Which there's so many different factors of what can cause the body to have pressure dysregulation. We look at, we keep going back to adrenal stress. We look at the diaphragm regulating intra-abdominal pressure. If you don't breathe properly, your body's organs around their fascial bags and connections register dysregulated pressure in there. So they become stressed. They become squeezed. They become tight. When things are tight and squeezed, they don't perform optimally. So that you change the organ function. And that's all started. A lot of it is started from lack of breathing. Diaphragm doesn't move. The rib cage doesn't expand. causes a hell of a lot of stress and causes a lot of compensations around the body. And that goes both chemistry-wise, by your bioterrain, and both physically in terms of your mechanics.
Pardon the quick interruption, but I need to tell you that the Andy Petronic podcast lives and breathes based on word of mouth and your reviews in iTunes. So if you love the episode, please do me a favor. Send a link to your friends. Think of somebody that you know would love this podcast and just send them a link. If you also feel incredibly motivated, I'd love you to go to iTunes and leave a review. You can do it in Apple Podcasts app by going to ratings and reviews, or if you use this link, bit.ly, that's bit.ly, /Andy Petronic podcast. That will take you right to iTunes on your computer and desktop, where you can not only give it a star rating, but you can write a review. Really appreciate it. And great. Let's get back to the show.
How does pressure and gravity play a role? Like, how would you explain this if you're talking to your mom or something and that she asks, well, so what do you guys do? Like, what's this human garage and pressure and gravity? And explain this to me in a way I can understand. Like, how do you do it?
I mean, the way I've explained it to my mom.
Well, you've done this.
I have done this for sure.
Without inviting her in to see it.
Yeah, exactly, right? When talking about the organs and when I'm talking about organs, ones that we share as humans, not based off of our sex or our gender, right? So 10 organs that we share. And we sort of say that you're the conductor of those organs, and those organs, it's an orchestra.
Okay.
And so kind of what Brian is talking about is with the diaphragm correctly moving in the way that it's supposed to in the right directions, it's creating a rhythm, right? And that pressure also will help to create a rhythm. So 3 of those 10 organs between the heart, the bladder, and the stomach function kind of similar to muscles. And so they have the ability to kind of pump or expand and contract. But the rest of the 7 organs are fired and triggered by that rhythm created through intra-abdominal breathing, diaphragmatic breathing that helps to push that pressure more regulated, creating more of a harmony, right? And so oftentimes throughout the days, even in an orchestra, your trumpet player, your bassist, everybody will get a chance maybe for a solo, the violinist, right? Liver has a solo, pancreas will have a solo, gallbladder, adrenals. When it's time for that solo, if they've been in harmony with the rest of the orchestra, the solo should sound on tune, right, in key. And if not, if the entire orchestra the whole time had been pretty dysregulated, everybody's they're freaking out. They're like, this isn't on tune. Why is everybody playing? There's millions of people here watching us. We're not performing the best. I'm going to have to somehow make up for this when it's my turn. And so I'm going to just try way too hard, and it's going to sound so off key, right? And it's just
circadian rhythm of the organs is what he's referring to.
Right.
And this is where Western has joined on with Eastern, and they're discovering it. They can measure this.
What do you mean circadian rhythm of the organs?
So certain times of the day that peak function happens in each organ. They have the 24-hour clock. Eastern traditional Chinese medicine is Eastern theory, and now Western medicine is getting on board with measuring these functions.
We understand circadian rhythm, like in Western society, is just sleep-wake cycle.
Yeah, right.
So like the Oura ring and stuff like that, tracking those kinds of things. But each organ in your body will also have its own circadian rhythm, right? And this is where...
But your whole body functions in one circadian rhythm, but then each organ has its own in addition to that?
Yes,
Correct.
and I believe that rabbit hole goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and that's the discoveries that we're trying to make every single day. That's why what we do here is more of a laboratory as it is, changing and pushing medicine and science and helping people, but we're also discovering every single day just from the amount of people that are coming in, the questions we ask, and this is something that we're getting into a lot right now with our treatment. So, and we're noticing massive changes when we start valuing these functions. You have to interview the person, and they have to talk about their life. If they're not going to be open about their life, then we're not going to get these valuable pieces of information.
Yep.
But then why are you really here? Then you're you're not really ready. But so then we can get into that, and then we tie it up to our testing that we do with urine and saliva, and we can link up and see parallels right there, and that starts to change how we're going to treat this person. We can identify through urine and saliva how well this person will have a release, what they need, where they need to be touched on the body, in order to truly get out of an adrenal stressed environment.
Why
Or
urine and saliva and not blood tests?
you don't have to go so micro right away. The whole industry, everyone wants to go more micro. Let's find the answer deeper and deeper. And what we've been doing is we've been stepping back, and we see that what you're looking at, but we're going more macro, and we see the whole picture. And while the whole industry is diving deeper, we're just stepping right back and letting it and seeing. And it's almost like looking at a Mona Lisa through a magnifying glass. I always try to equate that. You know, and
you want to look at the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Not I mean,
not just her eyes.
Yeah, you know, I mean, some people, you know, you can look and view, wow, how this artist touched the paintbrush. That's nice.
Yeah,
but you're not going to judge the painting on that. You're going to step back.
Right.
So,
because I remember one of the things that, I don't know, somebody said when I was going through the program is really your pH is really the master piece in your blood.
It's the first piece. It's the first piece, the way the body wants to make that change.
It's your urine pH and your saliva pH.
Yes.
Then they need to be in balance, right?
Yes.
They need to be connected.
Right. So the way that we'll explain pH is to think of it as environment, right? And if the environment is stable, then the organs in the body between the urine and the saliva actually have a fighting chance or an ability to get back into harmony.
Mm-hmm.
So how we'll explain it is when you're thinking about the urine pH and that environment will be anywhere from about like the belly button or the navel up.
Okay.
And the did I say urine or saliva?
You said saliva pH, stomach.
pH.
Oh, saliva's up.
The saliva is
Saliva up.
Okay.
Urine is going to be from the navel point down, right?
Okay.
And so thinking about if the urine pH is solid, but the saliva pH is off, you're still at an imbalance here, right? Because everything navel up is still going to be off. If it's acidic, we'll mention that it might be hot, sort of fiery, like a really rapid moving environment. And anything that might be considered alkaline is going to be more cold, slower moving, slower processes, right?
Out of the balance. So people always say, well, I need a more alkaline diet. Isn't that good? All the time we say, okay, you're really alkaline and here. People instantly go, isn't that good?
Right.
Well, you want that 80-20 balance of an alkaline diet to an acidic diet, but when it comes to your saliva, you want that perfect balance of a 6-4, 6-5, and then for urine, 6-4, 6-5. That's...
And what affects that? What I mean, I'm sure that's
we've
probably
been
too big of a question.
We have tests proving without any sort of chemical intrusion to change the pH is what we normally do. Is we first thing we start is body's not really going to sustain a change energetically unless the pH is adjusted.
Yep.
But we've also noticed pH changes just from body work alone. So that means
Really?
yes, we have measured that before.
Science for it. Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be pushing. So that's
So you do a pH analysis and then you do some
immediately
body work
after 10 minutes after do another test and it's the pH has moved
by significant enough that
we're
it's
going
significant.
we're experimenting with what treatment. I mean, this is not our this is typical our unwinding a quad or something, but we're looking at energetically going for the organs, doing our organ unwinds and with the intention of changing the pH. So our intention, we tune in, how are we going to move this pH marker? So that shows that the organs working in an orchestra, when they're out of alignment, are going to throw pH off. We know that to be true. We see that all the time in the test. Someone that comes in really dysregulated, we know their pH is going to be dysregulated. So find and tune into what organs need to be aligned. We use our energy. I mean, our body puts out the electricity, and we provide that into the certain area. And with our intention, we get that person to tune in also. Do you feel this? Now, with my intention, my pressing, they'll start to feel that sensation, and some of that organ unwinding happens right there.
Wow.
And measuring that at that time and immediately after, we've seen a move. Now, it's not drastic, but we've seen that we can actually change the body and any of those functions through.
And I mean, for us, the fact that it's even moving is drastic.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So people look at that test, they go, what do you mean? I go, that we just proved something that medicine and science have been years apart on. And some of the medicine that provided some of the body work that's out there, the treatment that's out there claims that they can do it. They don't have the science to back it up. We have the science to back it up.
Right. Wow. Now, Alex, you came this from the background of being a seasoned athlete, and you got injured. Do you want to tell a little bit about your journey in getting to where you are in the Human Garage and kind of how this? Why you're here where you are?
Definitely. Yeah. So I was a professional soccer player, sports injury, 50-50 or what they call is, so when you're going up for a header, against a defender at the same time. You're both aerial, so you're both in midair. Defender's knee went into my back, located right about the right side of my L4 disc. Pretty good contact initially in the air, and originally had felt something while we were in the air, and then as I came down, I also collapsed over his knee again on the same exact point.
Oh God!
Yeah, kind of like a backwards sort
of.
Yeah, right.
An aggressive adjustment gone wrong.
Very aggressive adjustment.
Like his foot was on the ground, his knee was here,
planted,
and you fell down onto his thigh, knee.
Twice over. So kind of like a car wreck. Yeah,
makes you appreciate professional, like WWE wrestlers.
Yes,
what they go through.
This is soccer. This is supposed to be, soccer's not supposed to be as
not too bad.
It's not like
unless
football.
we're over in England, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Barclays League.
Yeah. But the funny part of it was actually a pickup game. I wasn't even in training, which is usually how that goes. And then I, for the longest time, was like, should I have been playing in that pickup game? Was I being too much of that athlete that just wanted to play? But all said and done, it was for the better. And similar to a car wreck, when your nervous system is so much in shock and you've gotten to this, extremely bad accident, and you just get up and you just start walking away from the wreck and you're sort of looking back at the scene and everybody's rushing around you like, how are you up and moving? Stop moving, kind of thing, right? Very, very similar. Yep. I was moving and I was trying to tune back into my body to understand what just happened.
Yeah, right.
Where am I? Things were pretty daisy, stuff like that. I didn't continue to play, obviously. I ended up just going home and resting for the night. And it was the next morning when I realized what happened, similar to a car wreck. I woke up and couldn't move out of bed. Not a single muscle fiber. And from that point on, there was a little bit of a battle with trying to understand what that injury meant for me. Right, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. So ego is very present, which I think any athlete will always deal with to some capacity, at least. And for me, it was a battle with ego. That was my only identity that I had ever known up until that point was soccer in my entire life. Anything and everything you saw me doing was relating back to soccer. Some of it goes back emotionally. My dad had left when I was young, around like the age of 4 or 5, and that's when I first picked it up. And I had one of my older relatives, my cousin, had come in and sort of used that right when that was happening in my life to sort of be that step in of that identity. And so I had to face it. It was my body put me in a position where it was like, we're literally not going to let you move and you're going to have to face this, whatever this emotion is, whatever all of this is. And I had been receiving care for the injury all over the place, and it was outside of team. It was in several places around the country and stuff like that. And it had gotten to a point where the care that I was receiving...
What kind of care were you getting? Was it chiropractic? Was it massage therapy?
Yeah, everything. I mean, anything and everything that sports physios, I even went to, believe it or not, a couple orthopedics and podiatrists just because I wanted their input on what they've seen.
How was the pain manifesting in you? Like was it pain everywhere?
Yeah.
Were you able to walk? Was it shooting down your legs?
Yeah.
Was it
everywhere? It was everywhere. There were times where, obviously, as the body is always adapting, that it was a little bit more manageable and I can get up and move. But that wrong movement, that millimeter of a wrong movement, you're out. So getting into a car and not doing it correctly.
So your life changed literally overnight.
Flipped on its head.
You were 21 years old?
Flipped on its... 18.
18 years old.
18 years old.
So peak.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And just stepping into it too, very bittersweet. I mean, I had just stepped into the realm of that professional world. You're starting to see and feel the magic of what it's going to become. You're being told a lot of these different things, and you're like, oh my God. Like,
I'm here. I made it.
Yeah. You're at the top of the escalator looking down like, yes. And then all of a sudden somebody comes and just taps you and you fall.
How long did this debilitating pain last? I mean, were you going in and out of this for a year? For
2 years.
Wow.
2 years because...
Like you never knew what was going to happen. When you woke up in the morning, you didn't know if you'd be able to move or not?
No idea. And I was alone. My cousin I was living with at the moment was part of a production company, so they were always traveling.
Yeah, right.
So, and I didn't know who to call.
You were here in L.A.
I was here in L.A., yeah. And so... Yeah, the reason it lasted 2 years was because that ego stepped in a little bit as an athlete, and I actually played a year for a different team, still technically injured.
Wow.
So I was able, the care that I was receiving did get me better to an extent that allowed me to still play. but there were still things that were always lingering. So I couldn't go anywhere or be anywhere without knowing practitioners around that area that I was going to have to go to all the time, right? So it was like, okay, cool. You can be a pro athlete, but can you really?
Yeah, right.
Because everywhere you go, you need to make sure that you have your safety net or the protection from the playground, right? How much fun can I actually have?
So you weren't actually in jeopardy of, like not being able to move if you were able to play soccer, but you were not able to play at, I'm guessing, at the level that you used to previously play.
Well, it ended up getting right back to a point where, and this is where I found this part of it out. When you do rehab from an injury per se, right, and you think that you're in the clear, I talk to this a lot about clients, is again going back to thinking about the body as the computer and the brain as the CPU. I thought, looking in my inbox, oh yeah, I wiped that away, but I didn't. It was actually in the archives. So it was still stored somewhere. And this is a big reason why when clients come in for treatment, we tell them, look, we have a program for a reason, because if I go to fix your shoulder injury but I don't have enough time to assess the whole entire body, then that injury could come back 10 times worse. And that's sort of what ended up happening for me. And on top of it, I was still playing and performing. So it then eventually locked me right back up, old style, and got me to the point where it threatened my ability to move at all.
Again?
Yeah, again. Yeah. To move at all whatsoever. And even while I was playing, I was living in ice baths. I was sleeping on the floor. I had a
So it wasn't playing the way you were playing before.
Right.
It was playing, but you were on teetering on the edge all the time.
Right, exactly. And for me, it was like with the commitment that I was getting from the rest of the team and the coaches, it was the guilt also that held on to me. So I was a forward, and your main job is to put in the numbers, score the goals. And if we're losing, everybody's looking at you. And I couldn't give it my best, right? And then the emotion would come up. And it was like, So there's that assessment for the emotion then too. So once it did get me back to a point where, again, I can't move, now it had nothing to do with anything, not the sport, not anything. It was quality of life. And it was complete darkness, unfortunately, right? And it took me really, 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 really down. And when people say, I thought I hit my low, and that's not the low, I moved the rock out of the way and saw another 60,000 feet, right?
Jeez.
And I gave myself an ultimatum, right? Because you start having thoughts that you just never thought that you would have anymore. And it was quality of life. It was, I want to still exist in this life. I want to have a family. I want to have kids. I want to just enjoy the simple things like that. And if the therapists and the doctors that I was seeing was like, you have to get surgery so that by the time you're 40, you're not bedridden, so that you can enjoy the life that you're looking for. Something would, that frequency was like, whoa, no, surgery. What do you millimeter left or right? And I'm actually paralyzed. Right now, we're still teetering on the fact of what's going on or not. So it scared me. And I had those thoughts of, you can either live life this way or not.
Well, if all you ever knew was soccer.
Exactly.
Who are you without soccer?
Exactly. Right. So it was a huge emotional switch. And I got to a point where I sent out this huge letter to all the teams that I was involved in, any of the, because at the time I realized, okay, I think I'm going to have to go and understand how to help myself. And I know what that's going to look like. I don't know what the end result is going to look like.
Full-time effort.
Full-time.
Yeah.
So I sent a message to all these. There was some college coaches that had been trying to recruit me, and I was going to use that as an opportunity to even use the studies. And I said, I can't believe how stubborn you're being. You need to completely disconnect from this identity to set in your new path. You have to do it. And it was the ultimatum. And I also said, I'm going to get better. I don't know what it's going to look like, but if I can see what the finish line looks like, I know every day to that point is going to have some mechanism of healing, right?
Trust in that process.
Exactly. Just trusting. And it was strictly intuition.
Did you wake up one day and know this, or was it a process to get there?
I woke up one day, again, not being able to move, and was just so frustrated. Was like, happiness is such an important thing for me. Movement brings me happiness just in general, right? And then the things around you that you want to also have in that happiness. So I told myself, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to study all of the disciplines out there and on purpose switch. And I don't care how long it takes me, because I know there's always different requirements. If you're going into this or this, I'll do them. I'll do the weed out classes. I'll do whatever. So I started studying medicine and then switched to study PT, to study nutrition, and then ended up kinesiologist. Right. And it actually took me 5 years to do all of that.
All in LA? Is this all, you were all over the place?
That was a little bit all over.
Yep.
And then ended up mainly in Chicago. And learning all of that, I also had the ability to tap into all the research databases with a .edu student account, right? So you had access to JSTOR, PubMed, American Online, anything, the neurojournals. And so I was in class having questions that I was writing up, in my apartment or anything like that, going to class, asking these questions, whatever I didn't get answers to, I went home to do research on. And I just kept pulling research from all these different things.
But it was all pulled based on you treating you.
Myself, right. What I was feeling. And when I would ask a question, they would say, that's not how the body works. I'm like, you just don't know something, and I got to go figure that out. Right. And then anything that I found that made sense or didn't make sense, a lot of it didn't really make sense in the beginning, but felt right. That was the hardest part. It didn't make sense to me when I read it, but something about it felt right.
Yeah, right.
So I said, I'm going to try it on myself. And this was anything from a movement to a self-release to a diet change to, chemistry. I took everything into consideration, neurology, whatever it was, and just would maneuver my couch furniture, whatever it might be, and try it. And then get up and just kind of start walking. And it got to a point where over time it was, oh my God, I can stand for longer than a half hour without my back going out. Oh, I can walk now. Let's try to go for a run. Let's try to kick a ball around. And slowly but surely was, again, getting that confidence back.
Like 5 years. This is a 5-year process,
right? So this was about 2015 now, that I really started to step into more of the full recovery. And I knew that there was something in here that was special, and I might not have really understood what it was completely, but I knew something in what I had done with myself between all of the different therapy, right? And it was Western, it was Eastern, it was everything. Yeah. And I was like, there's really nothing out there like this. And I would try to talk to people around me about it, and they would give me the craziest looks in the world, especially in the Midwest, right? Which, again, I'm compassionate for their ideologies and stuff, but yeah, they looked at me like I was an alien. And it wasn't worth my time continually trying to talk about it. So I kept shut about most of it. My brother was still out here in LA, running a new production company and stuff. So I used to call him to be my soundboard for everything. He was an entrepreneur as well, started his own company and stuff. So he understood the business aspect of it as well. And then my other thought was, I need to explain all of this to somebody that doesn't understand medicine or science, so that if he understands it, I know that I can help people because I'm speaking that language. If he doesn't understand it, I got to step back and figure out how to explain it. So 2015-ish, his old offices were around the corner from where the current Human Garage location is. And his business partner had been going to see Gary for a little bit. And he got in a minor car accident. So his buddy said, go see Gary, around the corner. He'll just take care of it. And he walks in and meets Gary. And I think about 5 minutes go by or something like that. And he freaks out. And I just get, my phone is blowing up after this. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? What's happening? He's like, I just met this guy. I swear to God, I thought I was talking to you. And I'm like,
he's as crazy as you are.
Yeah, he's like the words, he's like everything, you don't get it. He was freaking out, and I was like, okay. And I was honestly at two split emotions. It was weird. As I was reflecting on it, a couple of months ago, actually, we were talking about it. When he first said it, the first thing I felt was defeat, because
you're like, I thought I was the only one.
Well, being in Chicago, I was like, I didn't think anybody else out there was thinking along these lines. So maybe he really hasn't been understanding everything I've been saying. Later to then find out, right? I actually had plane tickets to LA 2 weeks after our conversation already booked, because I was coming to look at commercial spaces to get a better understanding of what looks right, what the environment is like. I knew Santa Monica had their weird, their own rules and stuff that. So I wanted to get that understanding. He said, take this meeting before you do anything. I said, all right, I obviously trust you. So that happened, landed in LA, walked into the garage and met Gary. And that meeting literally only lasted 10 minutes. I don't think it could have lasted any longer. There was a lot of nonverbal communication that happened. I walked in the garage and was like, something about this place is what's happening. What's going on?
Right.
He asked me a question. I can't even remember my response. All I remember was like barely getting 5 words out. And Gary, immediately just put his hand on my face. He was like, K. And he already had the whole thing mapped out in his head. And I'm sitting back. I'm like, okay, did I answer your question? I don't know. And we just cordial, whatever. See you later. We ended up talking on the phone later that day. I was reflecting, realizing, oh my God, that was my business. That was everything that I've been trying to plan out, map out. He's ahead of me. He has the location, he has the clients, he has the revenue, and he already has a therapy put together. Yeah. Albeit that it's going to continue to develop, he has the starting point. Yeah. So let me just bring exactly what I have to collaborate. Because I'm not a superhero. I don't think anybody is. And that part really scared me, because I was like, I need a team in order to help deliver this. Yeah. And where is that team going to be? I don't know, but I know that they're out there. It's going to happen. We're going to find them.
The team found you.
Wait, right. Yeah. and so we basically just came together and we're like, let's go out there to create something bigger.
Now, Brian, were you on board at this point?
No, I came in. Alex, this was about a year and a half, 2 years ago for Alex.
This was 2015, yeah.
Because he went back and continued schooling.
So yeah, I was still in school.
Oh, you were.
Yeah. And I told him that. I said, look, I still have 2 years to finish. He said, okay. He said, but you're already there. I said, I know, but I got to finish this. And he knew that too. He's like, yeah, you have to. Because I want you to continue to pull out what's still out there.
When you say finish, what does finishing mean? Was it a degree?
Yeah.
Or was it okay.
Yeah, it was my degree for kinesiology.
Okay,
yeah.
At University of Chicago? Or?
University of Illinois, Chicago.
Got it.
Yeah, UIC. Yeah.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you did go back and you finished.
Yeah, I finished. So I was still working with the garage. So I would fly to LA, work over a weekend, and then fly back.
Wow.
Land, red eye, take the L into the city and then all the way to class.
Wow.
And then show up for class. Yeah, and then that pattern existed for about just a couple of years anytime that I found the right time to go and work and stuff like that.
If you were taking the L, you must have been O'Hare, not Midway.
O'Hare, yeah.
Yeah.
The Orange Line goes to Midway, I
think.
It does?
So.
Yeah, I believe so. But yeah, I was mainly out of O'Hare.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So then, Brian, when did you come into the picture?
I came in the picture, started coming around in July. I moved my family from New York. I had worked at a few. You
mean just
gyms.
like 6 months ago?
I moved from New York.
9 months ago?
No. I moved January 2017. I moved to San Diego. Started working at a place in La Jolla. Couldn't find the right space. Wound up finding a place in Hillcrest. Opened my own practice up
Of massage therapy?
Massage therapy, strength coach.
Okay.
I used my license as a massage therapist. The license to touch and
Yep.
So opened my physical therapy type practice right there within a chiropractic group. So the chiropractor is actually pretty advanced, and they had a gym in the center. So they were also using trainers. I rented space from them and had my own business right there. We didn't know, there was no competing. They had so much business, they could throw it to me. So I had basically, it was my table. I had a pull-up bar, cable hookups, everything. Got in there, and I'm treating people, and here I go. Everything's on me. I got the business line. Everything is, Brian, you're starting a business. Here we go. And going out and getting clients and working by myself. And I started to hate it. I saw these problems come up. I knew wasn't the way it should go. I'd be treating somebody. I see their pain. I'm looking at it going, okay, there's got to be something else here. I can't. I always had the envision. I used to say that in my own practice, I would get people better in 6 sessions. I don't know what it was. I knew that there was a way. I knew that there was a method. I said this before I ever knew what the Human Garage was, and that's actually our current model. Our base package, actually 6 alignment sessions. So I felt that in myself. I met somebody that was going up to the Human Garage. Said, you got to go try this place. You got to see this place. Come up with me.
That's interesting because they weren't that well known. This is a year ago?
Yeah, he sent me a podcast. It was Barbell Shrug.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The first Barbell Shrug podcast.
Yeah.
He goes, listen to it, see if you want to come up. Heard Gary talk, and I was like, yep. I'm going with you. And what I was going to do is actually steal some ideas, bring it back to my place.
Yeah, of course.
And obviously,
what a good therapist would do.
Yeah, right.
A good trainer does. I would always say as a trainer, I'm trying to steal from everybody I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
The better, and you
got to be a knowledge pirate. You have to be a knowledge pirate if you really want to, and that's why we're doing this podcast. There's people out there, putting out there some pretty radical ideas. So I went in there with that full intention of just absorbing. And that's what I do really well is I can listen to somebody, I know what they're talking about, and I can absorb it. And it takes one time.
Yep. And
so with the podcast, I was like, boom, got it. Went up, I shadowed the guy's session that I drove up with. And Gary, Gary's son met me, and he said, he's asking what I do. I go, I have a practice down in San Diego. He goes, oh, that's cool. Let me introduce you to my dad. Dad came up. He's like, hey, yeah, how's it going? Why don't you come in next week and do a consult? And this was about a 3-month wait list. So
Right.
I come in next week. Oh, this is awesome. I'm like, all right, yeah, sweet. Drive back up the next Saturday. I don't get treatment. It's an ambush interview. And Gary and one of the chiropractors sit me down, and I'm like, is this how a consult goes? Oh, and then Gary, the first question is, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, what? I'm here for treatment. I'm here to, do a consult. And, I see what he's doing, and he keeps asking me, what do you want to do? He got it right out of me. I wasn't happy by myself. So you want to come up and work here? And in that moment,
so you never had a consult, or at least.
Oh, well, no, he did the initial jaw release, and then they took me off the table and sat me down, which was bizarre. And everything. If you go into the garage, it's an open couch. There's no hiding spaces.
Yeah, everything is open.
Yeah,
it's one of the most interesting therapeutic environments I've ever been in before. Because
so important to have that.
Because everywhere else, everything is closed. Yeah, you can't go to a place.
And that's, that creates another dynamic that It's beautiful to actually to even hear somebody going through an emotional release, and yes, you have privacy. You have 3 walls, but there is an open space where people can walk by.
Which was bizarre for me the very first time I went, because there were people moaning on the table. There were people, and Gary's like, well, don't worry about that. She's going through some emotional stuff, and this is her 5th session, and she's got some experience. And it's typically not what happens in the first session. And I'm like, all right, okay, and everything's open, and there are people It's funny. It's funny that the name is Human Garage, because it reminds me very much of, you go to Ford, you get your car worked on, and you go back to the behind the scenes, and it's freaking hustling and bustling and cars and wrenches and bolts and nuts and shit happening everywhere.
It's exactly what it's like. It's exactly, and it was a clever name that wound up being exactly the identity of what we do, and it started to the personification. It just was there. It existed.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we look like it. You come in there, it's not quiet. I mean, we have, some good music playing where people are active, people are up and down. There's so many different things going on, and
it's also very interesting. My experience in going there, I can even see another analogy, kind of with the mechanics. You guys are not part of really the customer service experience once you're done. Like, it's very clear you've got a mission. And your mission is to serve the person you're working with. And you serve them fully once you begin, right up until the moment you're done. And when you're done, you've moved on to the next person or whatever else you've got going on before. I mean, you've made sure that they know where to go.
Yeah.
But you don't do the traditional stuff that you hand them off to the front desk or to the people that do that.
Yeah.
As a specialty.
Yeah.
And it's really different.
Every department has their, that's what we always attract the right people at the right time too. And as we grow, we put, to get hired, it's the process. I mean, you just have to trust the person that's walking in, depending where they're going to go. And they always fit right where they're supposed to be.
Right.
And handing somebody off, it's that my level of care is exactly like Alex's, and in terms of how you'll take care of them. He'll hand it to the front desk. They handle with the same level of care. Going off to the progression specialists, which are people assume are trainers, strength coaches that we have in the gym, and it's all that same standard.
How soon did you know you were going to move yourself up here and like?
So he goes, "What do you want to do?" And I know he was insinuating, he goes, "You want to work here?" He goes, "You want to work here?" I go, "Yeah, I want to work here." He goes, "Let's do it." And I go, "I got to go home and think about it." We talked about what I needed to move up there, and I get in my car. And I'm just thinking about it, and I call him right back up. I go, let's do this. He goes, "When can you come up?" I go, "I'll start next week."
Wow!
I literally went down, paid my last month of rent.
This is like a year and a half ago.
This was in August.
Well, this just happened.
This was in August.
Wow!
And they were it fit right. They needed somebody. I mean, I was willing. I needed to really push. I was ready to push the treatment. I was doing similar things. I just needed that help. And listening to him, it was everything. So I came up. I would come up after weekend after weekend for about 3 weeks or so. And I'd just sit with Gary. We'd treat people together. And he wanted to test to see how I could work. And it fit perfectly. Before he would ask me to do something, I'd go there and do it. So it was that trust immediately. And I was able to get up and running in about a month. And then while I was there, start to learn the way of the garage. But the need was there now. I mean, our company was growing, and it wasn't like an easy process. It was trial by fire completely at that point. It was in September is when things got full swing. Moved up here. My moving truck got stolen. That was I needed to purge my life.
What do you mean your moving truck got stolen?
Yeah.
With your stuff in it?
Everything. Welcome to LA, brother.
This fool was in the alley. I walked out of work, closing down for the day, and I walk out to see him and Jordan, Gary's son, in the alleyway with his car on. They're both kind of squatted over the hood of his car with Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
eating in between this move while he was there.
Yeah, so what I did is 5 o'clock, pack up the truck in San Diego. Boom, I'm on the road. Get up there about 8 o'clock. I don't have time to unload the whole truck now, so I call my friend Jordan. I go, "Listen,
you were doing this move yourself. This was.
I ran a moving company back in college with my cousin, so I know I'm really good with this. But I do need another man. I need labor.
Yeah.
So I go, "Listen, you got to help me get the cribs. I have twins. Got to help me get the cribs off the truck, my bed, and a couch. That's all you got to do. Take a half an hour." He does that. And I'm like, it's all right. It gets to about 9 o'clock. I'm like, all right, let's go back. I'll drop you off.
Truck sitting in front of your apartment.
I parked the truck in front of the apartment. Very close to here right now, actually. So I go, listen, let's go get something to eat. The only thing that's open, like Chick-fil-A. All right, we'll go grab Chick-fil-A. Let's, it is what it is. We need to put something in our faces right now. I drop him off at the garage where his bike was. Alex comes out. We say hello. I drive back. This is about a span of 45 minutes. I park
you were
my car.
gone for 45 minutes.
45 minutes. I park my car. I go out and I'm like, all right, I'm going to start unloading boxes right now. I don't need somebody's help. And I'm looking for the truck. I'm like, where the hell is it? Where the hell is it? Where the hell is it? And it's not there. I'm like calling all the tow companies. Did you tow my truck? I'm looking at the sign. I go, this is not there. I call the police departments. We are on the border. So are you Culver City or are you Mar Vista right now?
We're in Mar Vista.
Okay, so one street over is Culver City.
Yeah, right. Culver City's got these very weird borders.
Yeah. So Culver City is the house. So I'm calling the police department. I'm calling 911. They go, where are you? I'm like, I'm in front of this address. They go, okay, are you in the street or in the house? I go, I'm in front of the house. They go, you got to call Culver City. I call Culver City. And they go,
you in the street or the house?
They go, you in the street or the house? I go, well, my car's in the street. They go, no, you got to call Los Angeles. So I had 2 different police officers coming up. No one wanted to help me. I'm like, the truck is being stolen right now. And what's going on? So finally get a hold of it's Los Angeles, fill out the report. They find my moving truck 3 days later in Compton.
Whoa.
Someone called up. The license plate matched. Everything was ransacked, gone.
Whoa.
So that was my moment. I called Gary. I told him, I was like, everything has been taken. First thing he says to me, he goes, that's supposed to happen. This is the guy that I'm going to go work for. And he says it in a confident tone. He goes, this is a good thing. And at this moment, I'm freaking. I'm losing my mind. I go, oh, my kid's toys, everything is gone. He goes, we'll help you out. It doesn't matter. But this is supposed to happen. And that's when I knew I was at that change in my life where, whoa. I mean, I felt like I got on a rocket ship. And my level of where I was vibrating as a human being took off to the next level because I had to accept that.
Right.
And not like, you don't know what you're talking about. How am I going to do this? I'm going to get insurance. No, you're right. This is supposed to happen. And that was the moment where I had to make all those changes.
That's Gary's world. You don't live in reality, dude. Like,
that's why I was like, oh, jeez, I have to trust this now. I mean, this is my boss. But he said in a confident tone, I'm like, you're right. I had to pick up. And I mean, a lot of things changed in my life at that point. I had actually, the mother of my children, we had separated right at that point too. It was just almost the catalyst.
Was she down south with you?
Yeah. She moved up with us. Yeah.
Oh, she moved. So her stuff got stolen too.
Everything. So, I mean, that is like, it was the final split in our relationship.
Right.
And, that was tough, but it was supposed to happen.
Right.
And everything, I mean, it has all worked out now, and that's that trust.
Right.
And people, I equate it right, like, when people come in, that's why I can really relate to people when they walk in. They have this, they've been defeated. I go, well, we'll just figure it out. This is supposed to happen. There's a reason you're here. There's a reason. We're just going to plug it in and work this out.
Yep.
And instantly their shields go down.
Right.
And now you need to be responsible with that. And once they let their shields down, the picture unfolds of what needs to happen. Right. So that's what I did. I trusted it. I completely trusted in the garage, and everything has unfolded the way it should be, and I'm in a better place now.
Now, how do you guys run your lives to keep yourselves in balance? Like, are you getting treatment? Are you... What are you doing personally?
Thing. So we have to keep maintenance ourselves, and it's actually the model of when you're done with your treatment program at the garage, your initial, that first package you come in, you finish those 15, 16 sessions. What we're doing that ourselves, so it's maintenance programs. We get chiropractic adjustments whenever we can grab Dr. Luke or Dr. Danny we have hired. We just say, please. Get us going.
And do you guys go to the gym? Do you go work with Ryan? Do you have a neurological thing or
I've been doing, Alex, but I've been doing my own thing. It's just hard to get over to the gym right now. So I just do it. I'm at home with the kids. I'm doing handstands in my living room, and I'm
the
picking
things
up,
you know you need to do.
Yeah, I'm picking up kettlebells. I'm doing my own rehab. When we're having our space all in one unit,
one place,
I'll be down there.
Yeah, right.
It's so important. We have to live and encompass what we're trying to preach to our clients coming in. So,
but it's one of the things that I see very regularly especially with coaches and trainers who are trying to run businesses, and you get so caught up in running your life that it's very hard to follow your own advice and to spend the time that it takes to do your own.
That's the lesson I had to learn. And Gary had to pull the team aside and go, Brian will not ask you for help. He will help anybody else. He will. Right. I will put myself on the line, but I will not ask for help. And that's been my journey.
Right.
And it's to the point where I'll go through migraines. I mean, I have so much energetical cachet. I mean, I am just unloading on my energy, and I'm not receiving.
Yep.
And that's a lot of practitioners out there.
Yeah.
They need to learn to take care of themselves. So yeah, you have to.
How about you, Alex? What do you?
Yeah, well, kind of similar. Just I ideally would love to be with Ryan over at the gym doing a lot of those.
Well,
and I had a couple.
If we can get into his schedule,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have him in for
Yeah.
a podcast. I'm gonna hopefully do a video podcast with
Yeah.
him. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can- I mean, not that we're not videotaping now, but it's not my video. But
Yeah.
because I think the value of really,
Are you going to be doing? He's going to be demoing.
I don't know exactly. I just thought of it the other day. I'm
Throw him
like,
in.
he's-
Throw him in.
He's
any
an
space.
important piece. Of
Yeah,
this,
throw
you
him
know?
in
Yeah,
any
if you have a
space, he'll
chef on
do.
your podcast, you're going to want to do it in your kitchen,
Right,
watch
yeah,
him cook.
right,
You know,
right.
I mean,
Something.
Exactly.
Like, how do you
Yeah,
chop
yeah,
that
yeah.
onion?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah,
So it's got to be maybe in my backyard or something. I don't know.
Right.
I'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
No, that's the thing. You can do this stuff anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryan, we were talking about our setup. It's like, where are we going to put the gym? I would joke around. Let's just roll a rubber mat out in the parking lot.
Right.
And he
Oh,
looked at
okay.
me like, yeah, no, that'll work.
Right. We have to.
Get the quick visual. Oh, yep, we're good. Let's do
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So for me, a little bit the same. Just with the busy schedule and stuff like that, I'm not able to have the ideal, but I like it because clients sometimes want to have the ideal too, and then you have to step back into whatever your reality is.
So what can you do?
Yeah. So and I just squatting is a big thing for me. Squatting throughout the day, right? So a lot of the times, in the mornings you're in bed, you wake up, roll over, grab your phone, roll back over, and you're going through your emails, you're going through Instagram, you're doing whatever. I'll try to get up and squat while doing that.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Yep.
And then that way I'm not so much focused on the actual what I'm doing.
You're just in the position.
I'm just in the position.
Yeah, right.
Squatty potties.
Squatty potties, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love
Please,
those.
everyone out there listening,
yeah.
I don't care. We'll just get an apparatus, get those legs
Get
up.
the legs up. Yeah, I used to use the garbage. Anywhere I go that doesn't have it, I'll grab the garbage trash can if it can move around. If it's not one of those big tall ones, and just plop my feet.
I don't know
up
where
on that and-
we had. I had a squatty potty before anybody even knew what a squatty potty was, and I've got one upstairs. There was one in here. I think maybe it's in my son's bathroom, but yeah, I've been a huge proponent.
Steal your
of
little
this.
kids'
Yeah.
stools that they have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
kitchen
the little stools for the
Get your
sinks.
knees
and-
up.
Yeah. So it's kind of similar to Brian. Just little certain maintenance things that are right for you that can help to keep you into balance. And really,
Are you playing soccer these days?
I haven't lately. It's been a while. I definitely know that I want to get back into.
Are you at a point where you don't have
to?
to hold yourself back? Like you can just go for it and play the way you used to play, or do you have to? Are you conscious of?
I mean, my
aware?
if we're talking about like endurance fitness, it's probably pretty low.
Yeah, well, of course.
But as far
for
as like,
the first 10 minutes,
yeah,
like you can,
right. I'm like,
can you?
Whoa, that's yeah. But everything as far as pain wise, yeah, pretty good.
Oh, that's
to
great.
this point, yeah,
That's awesome.
me in summer league lacrosse.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Cool.
I just,
Yeah,
I
you're
just
an East
think,
Coaster,
like, oh,
right?
let me get right back in there and play with, kids.
Well,
as
self-taxing
your
and-
boys get older, your skills are going to become quite useful as a lacrosse player.
Yeah.
'Cause,
I mean, identical twins.
Yeah,
It's like, you're goal
boys.
to goal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, we did baseball and soccer, but yeah, we just didn't. I don't know why we didn't go lacrosse, but we didn't. So. It's
who
another
knows?
sport.
Maybe they'll.
Maybe
I mean,
happen,
they watched
you know?
the Olympics, and Blaze was watching. He was running around and figure skating. He was just spinning around the room right there. That was what he gravitated to. So whatever
There
they
you
do,
go.
I'm going to leave it all out on the floor. Whatever they want to do.
Yeah, cool.
That's important for
Guys,
kids.
thank you so
Yeah.
much. We could probably go on for another couple hours.
Yeah.
There's not a limit to the amount of things we could talk about, but maybe we'll just save it for another podcast.
Yeah,
definitely.
a year from now, the conversation probably will have shifted. And I mean, you guys are
to think about where we were a year prior.
yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
Where we started when I got hired.
Well, that's one of the things that I love about Gary's philosophy is throw everything possible that we know right now in this moment at the client to focus on their healing and don't wait for to be necessarily proven or to have a study come out that claims that it works right. Like we're just going to go for it, and as things evolve, they evolve, and the client becomes part of the process of the evolution.
And they love that.
Right. I love that. I
You
love that.
I mean,
Absolutely
that's,
love that. Right.
That's the beautiful thing.
I mean, it's not like you're removing a disc from my back, so I don't feel that there's a lot of risk involved.
No.
So, but I love that philosophy, and I love the speed at which Gary is moving and you guys are moving and the whole garage is moving. And,
it's a really cool system and program to be involved in.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
I really appreciate you guys. How if anybody out there is listening and wants specifically to talk to either one of you, are you Instagrammers? Are you Twitterers? Are you like, how would somebody engage with you with a question? Or
I'm looking at somebody that's trying to get my Instagram up. I'm not a millennial, which is weird. I'm an old soul, but
I'm not a millennial. I can't even say it. I'm not that either, but I have Instagram. And
I know.
Twitter,
I need to. You know what? It's
going
going to push me up to getting my professional Instagram going and contact me.
So you're unreachable at this point.
I'm not unreachable. I mean, you call the garage, and you'll ask for.
But like, if somebody wants to reach you the way
Brian.
It's a good question. Yeah. I guess I'm in the same boat. Technically, I am a millennial, but I'm not really present on social media. Don't have Facebook.
Really?
This is the intervention we have.
No Instagram for you.
This is the social media.
Come on, guys! I need
that happens right
people
here.
People want to talk. People want to engage.
We are. I'm in the
but by the time this podcast airs, Alex and I will have somewhere to reach us. All right.
Okay.
Because we're not releasing this tomorrow,
so it'll all go in the show notes.
We're gonna put
it'll go in the show notes.
It'll go up mid-April, so it'll go in the show notes. And you guys have questions for Alex or Brian?
So I'll create like a professional Instagram account, something like that. Yeah, get that going. Yeah, definitely.
Or personal.
And then so anyone that contacts us, you'll be our first. So I'd be excited.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You can be first, but you won't be last. On that note,
oh boy,
signing out.
All right.
Hey, it's Andy, and thanks so much for listening. If you want to know more about what I'm learning each month, head over to andypetronic.com and subscribe to my monthly newsletter. If you were touched, moved, or inspired by anything you heard today, chances are someone else you know would be too. Please take a moment to think about who and send them a link to this episode. And if you're super stoked, please head over to iTunes to write a review. The best way to keep current on guests and episodes is to subscribe so that the latest one will automatically get delivered straight to your phone. The apps I use for this are Apple Podcasts, Overcast, or Pocket Casts. The Andy Petronic Podcast is produced by our team, Winslow Jenkins, Becca Borowski, and Ernie Hurtado. Big thanks to Nikki Grudidaria for the artwork. You can find all of our episodes, links, and complete show notes at wholelifechallenge.com/podcast. I'm Andy Petronic. Thanks for listening.